Hello. Hello. Hi, everyone. Sorry for some delay at our end. Uh, um, let's start without any further ados. Let's start and jump right into it. I hope I'm being audible. So this, in any case, is being recorded, and this will be shared via emails, or it'll also exist as the in the streaming platforms. So it can be accessed later. I'll just reconfirm if it is being streamed in YouTube, etc. Yeah, right. Awesome. So I think without further ado, let's jump right into it. The topic is, topic is something which is kind of being discussed pretty much every day, maybe more, right? So the idea is that to reflect upon our own understanding of our own version, or let's say our own experience when it comes to the intersection of generative AI and SEO. What will be the future of SEO in context of generative AI? And we'll give you some sort of thoughts on it. Now, why do we think that we have some understanding? Because uh, uh, for those you do not know, I'm the founder of a product called LongShot.ai, which is basically an end-to-end product for SEO teams to research, generate, and optimize content. So this is because of this, like we have about 70,000 users, and have been dealing with this space since a couple of years now. We also have another product called FactGPT, which is focused on AI, which is an AI assistant for product teams. Uh, this particular webinar is not going to be about them, but rather our own, trying to share our own bits of what we learn and what we ourselves do in terms of generative AI and its relevance to SEO. So I'll quickly share something. Um, right. So I hope this is visible. And so the idea is to we'll walk you through the like what are the some top questions. So it is not going to be a general sort of gyan or a general understanding of what is generative AI and what is SEO, and some background. I think the audience here or whoever will listen to it will be fully equipped, and so we'll kind of skip the preamble pretty much and go right on to it, right? Uh, so let's kind of recap, right? What majorly happened in last 2 years? Actually, this is not an even phenomenon in the sense that most of this actually happened last few months. It started last couple of years, but kind of sort of happened with the fullest thrust of it in last, let's say, 4 5 months, right? The chat GPT moment, so to speak. So now, but just to summarize, right, like what happened in last couple of years is that we saw a lot of AI writing systems. Now, when we say this, right, like initially, when this our product and other products were launched, right, and I'll confess, right, that it was pretty synthetic, in the sense it was good for just short form copies and things which are pretty much uh, which are very menial, which do not have a personality, quote unquote, right? As you go to more creative style of writing, as you go to higher, lengthier content writing, they used to fall flat. But this is not the case anymore, right? Like we have seen complete books published by AI writing systems, right, and which are as good, quote unquote, as any human written book, right? So because of this, like this is the moment where AI is at least I wouldn't say so. This context, as everybody would agree, is in context of SEO. So therefore, we are talking in terms of marketing and related stuff, right? So I wouldn't go as far as saying that it's going to replace all forms of human writing, but here we can definitely make the case, and we have seen in terms of talking to consumers and the adoption that AI writing is, if not better than humans, then it is as good as a an average human writer, right? Average content marketer even. So this is one thing. Second thing is that there's just too much content, right? Which means that content was already being produced and at an accelerated pace, but this is going to be like, exponential high now. Now, what does this tell us, right? People used to say in SEO word about content velocity, producing content at a relatively, consistent pace. But this can be dramatically increased. Like you can produce like hundreds of content, like things like programmatic SEO, which we'll talk about. So we have to keep those in mind. And then finally, when the ChatGPT launched, it was not just a writing tool, but also a place where people were actually discovering knowledge straight away on it. And when Bing integrated GPT style systems in Bing search, this is very clear that this is not going to be the Google style search engine is not going to be forever, right? I mean, we personally do not believe that Google is going away, but at least it'll transform to the extent that there'll be hybrid use case and people will not do search and then figure out the top content and then try to distill the information they need, right? They can just straight away sort of cut the middleman, so to speak, right? So we are talking, whatever we are talking is in light of these things, and there are other things also, but these are the major three important aspects which I would like to highlight just to set some context. So this is about me. I already mentioned, right, that this is, I'll probably skip this slide. Okay, so as I said, like jumping straight to what we wish to talk about now. So this is pretty much the most common. I mean, if I were to get $1 for every time I am asked this question, it'll probably have, I don't know, thousands of dollars, right? So this is a question about Google's role in all this, right? I mean, by proxy it applies to other search engines, but being Google being the biggest one, I want to highlight that there is such amount of misinformation, and to some extent it is also because initially Google was not super clear in its guidelines, but here I'm just pointing out verbatim what Google's sort of guidelines as of February 2023 said, right? So as you can read, like Google is pretty much okay with AI content, and first of all, it did not even have a choice. I would personally feel not to be, but at least they have categorically stated that the content production source does not matter. Automation, Google itself is a ML, machine learning and AI and software company, right? So it was but ironical for them to have that kind of stance, right? But which was confusing for a few months, but this is pretty clear now. This is Google's statement as of in their blogs as of February 2023. And beyond that, we also see practically, right, our own search rankings, our user search ranking, and the industry at large search rankings. People who produce content responsibly, they use AI content tools to sort of not create like a spammy style content, barrage of content which is meaningless, but to tweak their own thoughts and kind of extend upon it. They have been doing really well, right? So that is going to be not just acceptable, but that is going to be the new sort of new age, new phenomena. So yeah, so just taking, so this is not in order these questions, but I wanted to highlight probably the most pertinent, most sort of pressing question. Okay, now who's going to use AI content, right? So is it particular to some industry? Is it particular to certain kind of niche, or is it for like everyone? So I would say that so the analogy we could think of it is that non-AI content or the human content will be like handicraft, right? It will be valued for different reasons. People do buy handicraft today, right? Handicraft, good handmade products, right? They buy it for other aspects, not just quality and durability and sort of the price points, etc. They buy it for aesthetic reasons, or sometimes cultural reasons, etc., etc. Right? So that's like, for example, if you are going to write a poetry journal of your own, you better not use this, right? This is going to be your own reflection. So that is still going to, that part of writing is still going to continue, right? So when we say AI writing, this is sometimes kind of lost in the discussion that we are not trying to, or AI rather is not trying to kind of overtake all sorts of writing. It is for writing which is slightly more for commercial, professional purpose, right? Because their writing has a marketing style aspect to it. This is going to be pretty much taken over by AI, right? I mean, I wouldn't say AI is going to write everything and then do everything, but yeah, it is going to in the realm of AI. Humans will act like an editor, right? And this is something which is for who most of the audience listening pretty much accepts it, right? I mean, in the sense that this is um, this is not a new phenomena anyway. It was happening since some time, but post Chat GPT and now GPT-4, this is like this cannot be any more clear. All right. Now again, we hinted upon this some time back, the question about the relevance of Google, and why is this question important in this talk, right? Because like what will happen if there is no search engine to begin with? What is the point of search engine optimization, right? So this is therefore is a kind of critical thing when it comes to thinking about SEO and its role and its future, and also like what SEO should improve or do, right? So the take here is like what we think is that this is definitely happening, that people are moving, not moving away, but also kind of in some sense appending their own discovery process using things like ChatGPT, and even more so things like Bing, right, which is kind of a great combination of search and also some kind of GPT engine, right? So this is going to thrive, but people are also going to be dependent on Google for a lot of things. For example, what happens to the latest information, current affairs, and like how do you attribute something to the source, right? One of the problem, very oftenly discussed problem with respect to GPT engines, generative AI, etc., is that some the kind of misinformation, or sometimes you do not know, right, like where it is coming from. So therefore that attribution aspect is lost, which is very critical, right, for a knowledge worker. So Google search and other search engines are going to exist and thrive, and Google itself is going to sort of reform and its shape. It has been doing so since some time anyway, and now that is going to accelerate. Even today, right, you see search snippets, right? So which was not the case since like a year or two back. So these kind of features will keep on kept coming. Now, which brings me to the other point, that what type of content will thrive. And I just succinctly wrote not tofu, because I actually wanted to sort of expand upon it right here. So lots of times, like the kind of SEO content we see circulating around is like people write a lot of 101 articles, right? Where, like, let's say you are a footwear company, right? So the kind of articles you will probably write or would have written so far is that what is footwear brand, and what kind of footwear brand exists. Sorry, not footwear. Sorry, what is a footwear? What is a footwear, like what exactly is footwear, like as lame as that, right? Or what kind of footwear option exists, right? What kind of sizes exist, things like that, right? Pretty much from the beginning, a kind of encyclopedic, and what is generally referred to as pillar content, or sometimes also a very high level content, which is a common knowledge for lots of people who anyway know about the product or the space, but still kind of it's still kind of very encyclopedic article to summarize the information for a layman. Now, but the intent was not just to summarize, really. Intent was also to attract the Google SEO juice, right? This is going to go away, because people are not going to have patience to kind of go through the entire sort of whole gamut of information just to figure out their own specific case. They want to ask, I have a flat fit, let's say one flat fit and one normal fit, and I'm a runner, and I'm sort of I have I don't know, my shoe size is 10, and I don't know, like I want to take up rock climbing. What kind of footwear should I buy, right? That's all, right? So it is going to be, now you cannot do today in Google search, right? This kind of content is going to come up. So of course you can imagine as an SEO that extremely lengthy pillar style content is not going to be the answer for it. The kind of content which will thrive is going to be like if you are a brand, for example, or if you are writing in a niche, are going to be something which is your strength, which you kind of master or differentiate at, right? Because other things can be left best to ChatGPT and the cousins, right? So therefore this is a highly opinionated take and kind of controversial also, but we have seen this happening anyway. And one of the reason is that the search engines will also kind of change their ranking parameters to make sure this happens. All right. So apart from that, right now, whenever we talk about things which are kind of which where we are talking about a phenomena which will happen in future, right? You can go more wrong than right. So therefore, I thought that I'll rather present two types of views, which is one which we can see fairly closely, where we can see like maybe a few months down the line, a year or two down the line, and other which is slightly far off, right? So the question about that, what happens to SEO experts? I mean, if you had asked this question, let's say a year back, right, you would have gotten a different answer. The kind of pace AI content, etc., generative AI is going through. But today, uh, like as of April 23, the answer I would present is, and this is for next, let's say next year, is that keyword based SEO to semantic SEO, right? So which means that we are already seeing a shift, right? Google and other search engines are discovering meanings. Now, semantic SEO is not a new thing, right? It existed since some time, and it used to be like one of the like many tick boxes you have to do. But now the focus of it is going more and more, which means that you do not have to go to the pains of trying to figure out that which keyword, like you have to kind of fill in, so to speak, in your content, right? You can directly, if you know that what your content is talking about, etc., you can just make sure that you write that well, or you write using an AI that well, and then leave it up to the search engines like Google to figure out or kind of rise them above the other competitors or the other sort of URLs, right? So the idea is that the search engine algorithms are also getting interested and as well as competent enough to figure out the hidden meanings, and without bothering to look at particular usage and the frequency of keywords, right? So so far, like the SERP style SEO, which used to be in vogue, is anyway shifting away, and this is going to be pretty much subsumed by semantic SEO. Now, so this is one part, right? But it's not just about that, right? It's not about content writing. Like lots of, again, even when we say generative AI, people again think that it's just for writing. We have to do other stuff, so to speak, right? When it comes to doing the SEO bit, like things like technical SEO and things like creating clusters and some kind of map, content map, and improvements. So there's needs to be a separate session on how to exactly do this. But again, like all you can use AI tools even for that, and that's already happening. For example, what if you want to create? Let's say you have a topic at hand, you want to see what topic clusters exist, right, for this high level topic, or you have an article, right, and maybe semantically it's fine and the meaning it's fine, but you want to make sure, you want to give it to the AI engine and ask it to suggest improvement based on some other articles in last few days, right? So that it becomes more attuned to the SEO, if it is missing anything, right? So this is definitely, these kind of things can be done by AI tools and are being done and will increase. SEOs can also do things which play, like correcting your URLs to make sure that it is correcting URL in the sense that URLs like to make sure that it is reflective of what you're doing and things like that, right? So which would be in the realm of technical SEO sometimes. So this is again going to be so this is not a content writing part, right? But this is again going to be more and more taken over by AI tools, which is already happening, and we'd probably have another session just dedicated to this part. And I mean, if there's any questions or ask on this, love to hear. Okay, so which brings to the point that, as I mentioned, what happens to SEO experts or SEO industry in long term, right? Long term is again a bit, the definition can be a bit vague, but let's say a year or two or more, right? So I think like, we have seen that this, the whole emphasis of how the knowledge is being sought and discovered is going to be a ChatGPT like interface, or I would say that more of a Bing like interface, right? Where you are asking questions, and if there is a short summary possible, that's already being presented. You do not have to go to the pains of articles and then snippets and clicking on it and giving it a click juice and whatever, right? So just know what you seek out to. It can be super complex query, like the kind of query I just mentioned about the footwear brand, right? Now, what is the role? How do you optimize? How do you even think about optimizing such a thing, right? So we are like in a 101 space when the whole SEO thing started, right? A couple of decades back, when people realize that it is possible to in some sense game in Google search, because if you use things like particular keywords or a particular sort of let's say interlinking strategy, then the probability of the content to surface high increases, etc., right? So, and this has been going on, right? Google versus humans has been going on since some time. And earlier there used to be very shitty strategies, like a lot of spammy strategies, but now the industry has grown to a very sophisticated, very honorable, and like a very wide and accepted industry, right? But this is again in a transformative space. I'm just using this term called prompt engineering optimization. It's a friend's term, not mine. So I'll probably kind of refer him, maybe add an attribution somewhere. So this is a term which is kind of which basically encapsulate that uh, the new avatars of SEO will be in charge of making sure that whatever their brand or the brand they represent, right, is caught up by these GPT engines. So, for example, if you're asking a query about footwear brand, your footwear brand surfaces, right? How does this happen? So this is now no more of a search engine optimization thing. You have to make sure that whenever these big models, right, go through their training process, they kind of highlight your brand, and they in some sense feed into their own knowledge base, and then therefore present at a correct query to the users. Now this is definitely more technically challenging and more opaque also, as SEO we know so far has been going on, but this is what we definitely think happening will happen in the long term, in the sense that this is going to be the future of it. Maybe for some time both of these things will coexist, but we'll definitely see a rise of, I mean, this is, you might see this term, some other term, who knows, right? So yeah, tell me what do you think about this? Right. So these are the kind of points I would say I wanted to address in this particular webinar. I think these are the kind of 6 questions we highlighted from what we were asked, or players in our space were asked. I would kind of had to let's say maybe the sessions and see if there is any other questions the audience might have, and if there's something, then I can take it up as well. So I'll just sort of pause and seek any questions, or maybe you want us to expand on some topic which is already discussed. Of course, I mean, if there's no question right now, it's definitely possible to reach out and ask questions later, or as a comment to the wherever the webinar is being recorded or live streamed. So that is definitely possible to do. Cool. So if there's nothing else, I think, yeah, okay, awesome. So Nate asked this question: could you touch on models like FactGPT that are pulling from live search results? All right. So FactGPT is basically a feature in LongShot, but I'll rather not expand upon FactGPT per se, because the intention of this particular call was not to focus on our product. But yeah, I mean, the idea is, for those who do not know, FactGPT basically is tries to pull, so basically it pulls relevant data from web sources and other sources, and give you a latest information, with it also fact checks on the fly, etc., right? So yes, this is one of those things, right? Like, we see happening more and more. And to the point, right, like, so one of the things which we believe might happen is that there needs to be a better control on where the data is being pulled from. Because what if the data you are pulling from also is like something uh, which is kind of produced using generative AI, right? So it gets into a circular loop, right? So I think there has to be a kind of a trusted or human source somewhere, and maybe in terms of activity or things like these, right? uh, the evolution happens such a in a way that AI is being fed data which it did not have access to previously, right? So that kind of things we definitely see, and it will happen to industry specific cases also. So, like, for example, sometimes it happens generic like the way we do, but it might happen in a very industry or niche specific areas. For example, let's say you are like just to kind of carry forward the older examples I've been giving in terms of footwear brand, right? So in terms of footwear brand, you want to sort of feed into data related to fashion, lifestyle, healthcare, things of those nature, athletics. So okay, the follow-up question is, how will SEO facts self-reference themselves, and how will original knowledge get incorporated? So again, this is a good question, and I would say a deep question, to the extent that there's no one answer, and definitely not a like a final answer. uh, how is the knowledge produced anyway, right? So like for example, you look at any medical knowledge in the web, right? Lots of medical knowledge is actually, it's actually wrong or misleading, etc. So the way people have been traditionally doing itself is not just Google search. At least like a lot of people would have figured out that Google search is the source of truth. Google is not the source of truth. It's the source of, it's like a way to get you to the sources. Then you have to exercise your own sort of moderation. It tries to do some of that on its own, but it's definitely possible to dupe it, right? So for example, you can look at the site authority, or there are some accreditations when it comes to news media, like which is where the prospective fake news and misinformation problem is the biggest. So there are things like ratings, NewsGuard ratings, or fact IFCN. I'm probably misspelling the full form of this organization. These are the journalistic organization which give the ratings to the particular website, right? So which, and they do some kind of audit, content audit, and they approve. These organizations are giving the verified information. But one can definitely ask that, who is verifying the verifier, and so on and so forth. So like we as a startup do not have answer to those things, but yes, like there will be a better control of where these references are coming from. For example, even today, right, we do some kind of moderation that way, that when we are citing something, we ensure that it is not from any random website. Just because it exists in the web does not mean that it needs to be cited as a reference. I hope that answers. Akash asks, how should we make our strategy right now? Should we spend high on SEO, or wait for some time and decide what should be our strategy? See, I mean, like as I said, like I'll just bring you to the point number short term, right? So short term wise, I mean, I would say that things are not going to be, because see, like AI have changes fast, but that does not mean that Google, because it's a Google's bread and butter, right? So they are not going to dramatically derate or completely do away with all the content which has been written so far, and you have to everybody in the world, like billions of write the start from the sky. That's not going to happen. So the in near future, we think, and we have been seeing that happening, that keyword infesting can go away, right? So just focus on writing content. Do not focus too much on the tofu. So that will be the near term strategy. Short term strategy, nobody knows, but yes, like prompt engineering optimization is the way to go. If you ask me how would we do that, I think nobody would have a clear answer to it, and precisely because nobody knows what is going behind the scene when it comes to things like ChatGPT and GPT-4. Which brings me to the really interesting point. So thanks for asking that question. We are also seeing a lot of, in some sense, competition when it comes to the monopoly of ChatGPT, GPT-4, which is by OpenAI. So I mean, kudos to them. But again, like we are seeing a lot of a very democratic way of other model rising, which are more clear, open, and people know what about them. People know their details now, which means that people can do something about them, which means that people can know how to even approach this prompt engineering operation, right? So things of those nature will happen. I think, like I'm sure that there will be companies, startups, products, tutorials, advisories on how to actually go about it, right? So I mean, there is this search engine called You, right? So which was using maybe some proprietary search, maybe AI model to do that. Maybe they if they kind of improve, so they will, I'm just kind of guessing, right? So they'll maybe dictate or release their own version of how to do this PEO, quote unquote, right? So that would be my guess. Yeah, so PEO is like, again, a made up term. I mean, for the lack of other, and it's not my term. So again, I'll thanks to Rajan, who is a friend who quoted this term, and so what it emphasizes is that, let's say you today, if you're asking anything to ChatGPT or any other AI content algorithms or tools, right? Sometimes it gives you factual information. For example, if you today ask what are the good footwear brands for a flat foot, right? So it'll actually give you some brand names, right? So how do you, so if it's your brand or if it's a brand you are representing, right, as a marketeer, then how do you make sure that your brand is displayed? Because I'm like it might be a good and relevant brand, and maybe these AI content engines have not sort of realized that. So how does this brand enter into their knowledge space is the whole prompt engineering optimization bit is about. As I said, like, it is again somewhat of a fuzzy thing. So it's one of those things where the name has come first, and what exactly it is about will probably people will expand later, right? So yeah. Awesome. So if there's any other question, yeah. So I'm sorry, I was not showing the question so far. So I think um, this is I'll try to do that in the follow-up questions. So yeah, Viraj asked, are there any industries or niche where generative AI is particularly well suited for SEO? Yeah, so good question. So I think I think like that used to happen a while back, but now it's hard to pinpoint where it is not being used or not being suitable. I think we did not even touch upon non-textual or non-search engine style aspect, like for example things like images and all. That's pretty more pervasive, right? Even more than this. So I don't think it is not suitable. Anything. The obvious examples could be like super technical or super, let's say fields which require a really high degree of scrutiny. For example, medical fields, right? Let's say you are today creating a report on like how to diagnose a disease. That those kind of things I think are even so. I mean, we are seeing that even those are possible, but there is a high degree of authority is needed to the extent that the regulations and the policy behind them are unclear. So even if it is possible, people are refraining from actually doing it and publishing it out there, right? Because the repercussions, both for the brand, the companies, or like publishers, as well as for their audience, could be like really, really severe, right? So things like the obvious examples of medical information and legal, fintech, right? Those kind of things, some research, right? High-end research, where if you go wrong, then the sort of downside is huge, right? So those are particularly unfit, not so much about that the content quality is like especially bad, but also because that the regulatory frameworks are a bit confusing at this point. Yeah. So we might have another session, I think, like based on what we had been discussing on this particular aspect, where we'll probably try to dig deeper on how can AI help in things which are non-writing parts, especially, right? So let me know in the comments, or you can reach out to us if this is a kind of session you'd like to see and like to sort of hear about. So I thank everyone for their presence, and as I said, like you can definitely watch it again or later, or you can we'll reach out via emails, etc. It'll always be available on YouTube, etc. So hope to do more such webinars in the series, and uh, share whatever we know in the space. So it's an exciting space, definitely, and it's one of those times, right, that you are seeing as a transformative times for lots of industry, not just SEO. So on that note, I'll take your leave. Thanks again. Thanks everyone. Bye.